All right. Shalom, shalom. I'd like to start off by saying, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Kor Haloim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Wachak Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad, the Akim and the Akwat that's listening in. Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing that the lesson is edifying. It's the brother Shawab Mamuan back at you with another lesson. And going into the title, all right, global lockdowns in process, all right, 2026 year of the N.W.O slash technology, all right. And I got two little videos I want to bring out from Instagram, all right, based on these global lockdowns, all right, which, a global lockdown is on the way, okay. And the reason for this global lockdown, when you really look deep into it and understand it, it's all, from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, first and foremost. All right. But the global lockdown is being brought into process to be able to bring in this N.W.O. Okay. Because in order for the N.W.O. to be brought in, all right, with ease, the whole entire earth has to be on lockdown. All right. Because the snare that's about to come upon the whole world is a global thing. You see? So it's all being orchestrated by the elites, okay, that pretty much pull the strings behind closed doors, all right, to basically, usher in this N.W.O, right? So let me start off with this real quick. This is what comes to mind, all right? Excuse me, all right? And it's going to pretty much, happen here in America, Babylon the Great, all right, and the rest of these countries, all right, which these other countries are already speaking about a global lockdown, the first ever global lockdown, all right. But the main one's going to be here in America, right? And this is Isaiah 19 and 3, and it says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. A fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai." Right? So, the cruel Lord that we have in place right now is DJ Trump, right? And he's the one that's pretty much have caused, all right, this global lockdown to be put in process, all right, because of the war that he has waged, all right, across the globe, basically, all right, especially in this war with Iran, right? So it says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail," all right? So, America, everything here in America is already failing, all right? It's already being destroyed, all right, from the inside out. All right, it's just a matter of time before this place collapses totally. Okay, now something I picked up on. All right, going into the cross reference just to see what came up. All right, it says here, "The spirit of Egypt shall fail." Right, it says the phrase from the KJV. It says this is a prophecy of what took place in Egypt about 22 years after the destruction of Sennacherib's army, when upon the death of Terhaka, BC 6688, not being able to settle about the succession, which this prophecy that's being spoken of is actually being spoken of America, okay? But it's kind of it stuck out that they actually had this in the linear Bible. All right, it says, "Not being able to settle about the succession, they continue for 2 years in a state of anarchy, confusion, and civil wars." All right, which was followed by the tyranny of 12 princes who divided the country among them, governed it for 15 years, and at last by the sole dominion of Semiticus, which he held for 54 years. All right. But like I said, this prophecy that's being spoken in Isaiah, the 19th chapter, is speaking about America. Okay. Because America is considered, Sodom and Egypt spiritually. Okay. But like I said, what stuck out in a linear was the part where it said they were in a state of anarchy, confusion, and civil wars. All right. And that's what's happening around the world right now. Anarchy, confusion, All right, this whole world is confused. All right, especially that they all have, drank the wine, all right, of Babylon the Great. And Babylon the Great goes back to what? Being confusion. Babel, all right. Babylon goes back to Babel, and Babel means confusion. All right. So because all these nations have drank the wine, all right, of Babylon the Great, the rest of the globe is basically confusion. All right. And right now, what you see around the world is civil wars, all right, getting brewed up. All right, you see sedition among men, people standing up against their governments, and the main one that is going to be seditioning is in America, okay? But it's a global thing, remember, because the lockdowns, all right, is what's going to usher in this N.W.O, right? So let me grab this real quick, the two videos. All right, so this is the first, give me 1 second. All right, so the first one is lockdowns are coming, okay, right here. It says lockdowns are coming, and it shows different. It shows a map, all right, of different lockdowns, and then it says Asia April 1st. All right, so we're in April 3rd. All right, let me see if Asia has gone into their lockdown. Has Asia gone into global lockdown? All right, I know they're in the process of it. No, Asia has not gone into a global lockdown or mandatory style lockdown, but some countries are implementing energy saving measures. Okay, so it's still in the process. All right, but this is what they have on board, on schedule. All right, it says April 1st, Asia is supposed to go into lockdown. It says J.P. Morgan has published a countdown showing when fuel supplies could run out, on each continent. All right, so if it hasn't gone into lockdown yet, it's because they still have enough. All right, but it's at the verge of basically going into that lockdown, right? Then it says Europe, all right, April 10th. Okay, then it says North America, which is America, right? April 15th, and Australia, April 20th. Okay, so this is what they have, all right, brewing up around the world. Okay, so supposedly the 15th of April, all right, something with a lockdown supposed to happen here in America. All right, we have to see how it plays out. Okay, because whenever they give dates, it's never right on time. All right, but it's kind of around that date. You see, so it might be 2 weeks from then. From the 15th, it might be 3 weeks. All right, but it's always around that time, and it's basically a warning when you look at it through the spirit. All right, of what's to come. All right, so again, it says that it's going to be a global shutdown, right? So now this is the video that I wanted to play. All right.
It is. Taking territory leaders together again to finally find an answer to the fuel crisis. Some drastic measures similar to the days of COVID could be on the table as the government braces for a worst-case scenario.
Questions fly about fuel supply. The anxiety levels are as high as I've seen, maybe with some even higher than COVID.
The further measures they will consider based on the International Energy Agency's plan, encouraging 3 days work from home, 10 kilometres per hour lower speed limits, encouraging public transport and carpooling, and ordered.
All right, so let's take it from there. Work from home, right? So they're trying to push, all right, and this says at the top, it says global lockdown coming in April 2026. So work from home, and we're already in a partial lockdown, right? It's a government shutdown partially, right? So now we have to see, what the Lord does through the Spirit, okay? Just because we're in a partial lockdown doesn't mean we're in a total lockdown. All right, you're still able to go and send mail. Government places are still open. People still doing their taxes and shit like that. All right, but when there's a full lockdown, you're not going to be able to do any of that, right? But what they said was work from home, so they want people to work from home at least 3 days a week. All right, I believe that's how he said it.
Are trying to push work at home mandates to save fuel.
The further measures they will consider based on the International Energy Agency's plan, encouraging 3 days.
Oh shit.
As the government
Salaki.
Fuel supply. The anxiety levels are as high as I've seen, maybe with some even higher than COVID.
The further measures they will consider based on the International Energy Agency's plan, encouraging 3 days work from home.
3 days work from home. All right. So that's already the gradualism of them getting you used to being at home. All right. Now, the reason I bring this up is because this work from home is how they're going to usher in this UBI, okay, universal basic income. And what's the universal basic income? They don't want people to work, but they want them to stay at home and collect a check, okay? This is already the first stages of how they're going to get you into that N.W.O, sitting your ass at home, all right? And people, you know, not being able to work is going to bring people into a frenzy. But remember, they always have a solution for it, okay? And the solution is going to be, you know, stimmy checks, all right? You sitting at home and collecting this UBI, because when the MOTB is presented, right, they're going to have to bring in the social credit score system. They're going to have to bring in the UBI, okay? This all goes hand in hand, all right? This is how they're going to bring the biometrics and all of that, all right, into play. All right, because now they have you locked down at home. Now you have nothing better to do but to actually follow with their follow and comply with their rules. Okay, and of course there'll be certain consequences if you don't. And especially now that we have, you know, the military, all right, spread out through America. You know, Homeland Security. You have these National Guards in different, you know, in every state. You know, 5,000 here, 5,000 there. Okay, on top of, you know, the rest of these military groups being spread out throughout the world for war. All right, remember, you still have National Guard spread out here in America, and that's was set for a reason. Okay, for when lockdowns come, they're already in position. You see, so again, working from home is going to be a crucial thing, because that's how they're going to push in this UBI. Okay, little by little, they're going to inch their way in more and more, all right, especially with a lockdown, okay? Once you're locked down, now they could come with different angles, all right, to this to this N.W.O, all right? So you have to be mindful of that. So we have to be mindful of that, right?
Kilometers per hour lower speed limits.
Now they're going to have lower speed limits, right? So little by little, they're going to start taking away, all right, people from being out on the streets, okay? Lower speed limits require basically more what? More police, okay? Law enforcement is going to be out more and more. Okay, and then eventually, all right, these law enforcements are going to be taken out of the way, and it's going to be replaced, just like how you see these TSA workers being replaced with ICE agents. All right, that's what you're going to see eventually with these law enforcement, man. They're going to be taken away, all right, and they're going to be replaced with ICE. They're going to be replaced with, you know, with your National Guard troops, all right, which eventually that will bring, you know, in the process of lockdowns, that will bring a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Checkpoints. Okay. That's going to bring checkpoints. All right. Then you're going to have 2nd Ezra 15. All right. Come into play. Verse, what is that? 16. All right. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right. You're not going to be able to go town to town, state to state. All right. You're damn sure not going to be able to travel out of the states. All right, because they're already in the process of trying to lock down these flights. Okay, and that's pretty much why they have these ice cream agents, all right, out there as TSA workers. All right, because that goes into, you know, having the control, Salakia, having the control, all right, over the people. All right, even if they want to go out of state, all right, the first thing they're doing is they're doing biometrics. They're checking your background. All right, if something's fishy, well, then there you go. They snatching you up. All right, you're considered an immigrant. You get taken to these FEMA camps. All right, processed, whatever. Okay, and that's all part of the gradualism. Also, getting you used to seeing these you know, martial law troops spread out throughout the world. All right, and it's to instill fear in you. Okay, so
public
it said public transit.
and odd and even number plate days in cities.
Let me just play it back.
Encouraging 3 days work from home, 10 kilometres per hour lower speed limits, encouraging public transport and carpooling, and odd and evens number plate days in cities.
Then governments around the world are trying to push work-at-home mandates to save fuel. Even the international.
Yeah, see, they're trying to push it to save fuel. It makes no sense. All right. I mean, it does make sense because we're in a fuel crisis. Okay. But at the end of the day, all right, what if we're in a fuel crisis? What is it? What do we have to work at home for anyway? All right. Not every job that you see around the world can you work from home. Only jobs that you could really work from home, all right, is basically, you know, somehow, some way, these type of jobs that are like, you know, I don't even know how to explain it because I ain't never had no job at home, but it's all computer jobs, basically, you know, telemarketing jobs, you know, people that are, when you call a certain hotline or you call a certain store, you know, they have representatives in the background for them. You know, those are the only type of jobs that you're going to be able to work from home. All right. Everything else, you have to physically be there for it. Especially, you can't work from home on a construction job, right? You can't work from home if you work at a gas station or something like that, right? You can't work from home at a food restaurant, right? It wouldn't make no sense. All right. But again, this is why they're trying to push you to stay at home and get that in your mind that this is going to be the norm. Okay. Because this is how they're going to set the hook. This is how they're going to set the bait and pretty much, you know, suck you into their system. Okay. Because people going to panic. People don't like to be at home. All right. Especially when we got the summer coming up and it's going to be a hot summer. Okay. Because we had a horrible winter. All right. So whenever there's a horrible winter, it's always a dry ass summer. All right. So people being stuck in their houses, power going out, you know, Lord willing, the power goes out through the summertime. Okay. And what's that going to do? That's going to make people, you know, get very irritated. Okay. This is what's going to raise up, you know, more riots amongst the people. Okay. And again, you know, what would be greater than an actual collapse while you're sitting at home and everybody's eyes is on the TV, everybody's eyes is on social media, because everybody's eyes and ears are open to what's going on around the world right now. All right. They might not have understanding. All right. But their eyes and their ears are open to what's going on because they're pretty much waiting for the next outcome. They want to know what's next. All right. What's in store. All right. And again, civil war itself is brewing up here in America. Okay. You still got race wars on the line. You know, that basically goes into to civil war. Okay. You have these MAGA, you know, people that have been dying to go into a civil war to make their country great again. Right. Because they don't want to see their economy collapse. All right. They see that their entitlements are being taken away. All right, so that's already on the back burner. Also, you know, simmering. Okay, so let's hear what you got to say.
Days in cities.
Then governments around the world are trying to push work-at-home mandates to save fuel. Even the International Energy Agency is trying to restrict non-essential travel. Now, does this sound familiar? In 2020, we were told that lockdowns would only last a few weeks. It lasted years. Now, instead of a health crisis, we could be entering a period of peak energy, and that could be just as dangerous as a virus. The new world.
Yeah, and it's that dangerous because with an energy crisis, it actually brings in both of them together. You see, with an energy crisis, a health crisis is also going to come too. All right. Because you need energy. All right. To be able to, you know, push your health. OK, your hospitals, you know, you need energy and power to have freezers to store medicines and cures and things like that. Right. So with this energy crisis is basically also bringing a health crisis with it. You see, so it's going to be worse than a health crisis, man. Worse. It's going to be like what's his name? Bill Gates basically said. He said the first pandemic did not get their attention, right? But the second one is going to definitely get their attention. All right. And there's a reason to that, because the second one's going to be the worst. OK, the first was just a test run of seeing how much control they have, you know, how people are going to react. All right. But the second one is going to be the real one. All right. There's no coming back from the second one. There's no third one is a charm. Okay. When this place gets shut down, all right, this is getting shut down for good. All right. And you can see why, because we're in the midst of World War III. A lot of these people, that's another way they're going to be able to grab people out of their homes and send them to war. Okay. People could still run around right now and disappear. You see? So they need you to stay home somehow, some way, to be able to snatch people out of their homes for Jacob's trouble, snatch people's home, snatch you out of your homes to take you to the military. Okay. They need you to stay at home so they can mandate this MOTB worldwide, and everybody's at the house watching this thing, man. You see? That's what they really want. All right. And that's what's coming.
Dominated by the power triad, compute data
Salakia.
years. Now, instead of a health crisis, we could be entering a period of peak energy, and that could be just as dangerous as a virus. The new world will be dominated by the power triad, compute, data, and energy. Energy is the foundation of everything. If oil prices don't start coming down,
and he said is what? Compute, data, and energy. All right. And that's how you know that MOTB is about to be presented. All right. Because the MOTB, the RFID, goes into having data. All right. Compute going into, basically, travel restrictions, computers, all of that. Okay. So it goes back into them having total technocracy of everything. All right. They're controlling your data. They're controlling the compute, and they're controlling the energy. Okay. And with those three things being controlled, all right, now I can make these people bow down to my system. You see, they have no choice but to follow after my ways. That's exactly what they want you to do. Okay. That's him putting you in checkmate. All right. Whether you like it or not. And this is why people are going to go to their oppressor for the one of all things. Okay. Wanting to go back to the old days, wanting to go back to the life we used to live. All right. But they're not understanding, all right, that's the end of it all, right? Shalom, Malak, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahweh, Barakatah. All right. So continuing on.
Just continue. It will keep data and energy. Energy is the foundation of everything. If oil prices don't start coming down, if geopolitical tensions continue, it will keep impacting supply chains, financial markets, global stability. This is bigger than the COVID lockdown. This is
and that's the point of it. That's why everything's going to go into hyperinflation. All right, because it's a collapse in the infrastructure from within first. For the rest of it to just fall down like dominoes. Okay. So that's what they're literally, shutting down the world. All right. And this comes from your top elites, the ones that hide behind closed doors that rule the world. The 1%. All right. That has the money to fund everything in life. All right. Even with this war that's going on. All right. All wars are funded by elites, man. You see, this is all about who has the money to do this. OK, who has the money to control everything. All right. And again, the ones that want to bring in this N.W.O are what? Your elites. OK, going into your Rothschilds. All right. Your Rockefellers, your Bilderbergs. OK, these 13 bloodlines that rule. All right. The world. All right. Behind closed doors. All right. See, this is why, we're constantly in spiritual wickedness and fighting against spiritual wickedness in high places. We're always fighting, against the rulers of darkness of this world. Okay, it's a battle that, this is why we need Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right. So because the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, all right, they rule everything. All right. And this is why the whole world right now is mourning. Okay, because the wicked beareth rule, you see, and because they're in rulership. All right. They have control of these things. We don't have no control of anything, man. The only control we have is having Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah be on our side, right? And he's the one that's controlling all things, period. All right. He's controlling the minds of these elites. He's controlling, all these different things that are happening around the world. All right. Why? Because he's going to usher in his prophecy. You got Esau that's ushering in this new world order. All right. But ultimately, it's Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai taking this place down, all right, and ushering in the prophecies, all right, and making these prophecies jump off the pages, all right, because one that's righteous is about to be put, all right, in rulership, which is Yahweh Shai. You see, so
Follow me.
let's finish
Just
that.
as dangerous as a virus, the new world will be dominated by the power triad: compute, data, and energy. Energy is the foundation of everything. If oil prices don't start coming down, if geopolitical tensions continue, it will keep impacting supply chains, financial markets, global stability. This is bigger than the COVID lockdown. This is a system shift. Follow me if you want to understand where all of this is going.
Yeah, that's heavy. He said it's a system shift. All right. Again, that's why they're gradually getting you used to. They're gonna get you used to being at home 3 days a week. They want you to work from home. All right. Eventually, that's gonna turn into from 3 days a week, it's gonna turn to your ass is just sitting at home doing nothing. All right, because it's a system change. Okay. They need everybody to sit in place to change the system, so everybody can feel it. Okay, if everybody's running around just doing whatever the hell they want, you're not going to be able to feel that system. You're not even going to be able to see it coming. Okay, which most of these people still can't see it coming, even though they're sitting at home. All right, but that's the point of that, right? So let's grab this. This is everything's going to shut down out here, right? So there's going to be no more work. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 3. I mean, Salakia. Ecclesiastes 12. Oh, bugging right now. Ecclesiastes 12:3, and it reads, "In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, right, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened." All right, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, okay, and fear shall be in the way, all right, and they're gonna be afraid because they're gonna start to realize, all right, that this is all Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, okay, because it's prophecy that's being taken place, right? It says, "And fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail," right? Just like how we just read, all right, in Isaiah 19, right? Let me just go back to that real quick. Isaiah 19:3, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof," right? So the spirit of Egypt is going to fail. Everything in America is going to fail, all right? The same thing is happening here in Ecclesiastes 12:3, right? I mean, in 5. It says that desire shall fail. All right. And why is desire going to fail? Because people are going to be in a desperate state of mind. They're going to realize, all right, that these devils, all right, were not really here to make America great again. All right. They were here to put you into their system. They were here to, make you follow after their image. You see? So the hopes of people, all right, is going to be long gone. All right, ain't gonna be no more, damn, man, I wanted to be this. I wanted this to happen. I wanted to set a 10-year plan. I wanted to make this amount of money to be able to open up my bit. None of that shit's gonna be able to work. So the desire is gonna fail, all right, because you're gonna be controlled by their actual system. All right. When you're controlled, you can't have a desire for something. All right, because you have to follow the directions that they're giving you, basically. You see, and this is why you have to be freed, all right, from the mentality of this place, man, because and Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, you're free, you see, and Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, all right, that's what's going to make you, liberated from the system, you see. As long as you're still part of the system, you're still part of this image, you're still going to Egypt for help, as it tells you in Isaiah 31, right, and in 30, right? The more you keep going to America for help, all right, the more you are chained and you're controlled by this system. You see, this is why the elites, all right, pretty much hate, all right, us, because we're abstaining from his ways. You see, we're not allowing his ways to control us anymore, man. You see, we're allowing Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah to control us through the spirit. We're walking in the spirit and not in the flesh. So when you walk in the ways of America, you're constantly walking in the flesh. So those that are of the flesh mind the things of the flesh, right? And everything that Esau has to offer, everything that this system here has to offer is of the flesh. All right, it's not of the spirit, right? That's why it tells you that in let me grab that real quick. Isaiah 31, right? Real quick. Isaiah 31, and let me just take it from the top. Point is at 3, right? It says, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many. All right. And horses go into what? You know, power. All right. Having power. It says, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. All right. So the elites have all this power. All right. And these people follow after these things because, you know, the power that they have. Right. As a matter of fact, it tells you that in Micah. All right. 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. You see? And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses, and they take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage, right? It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for the time is evil. All right. So let me go back to Isaiah 31. It says, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord Yahweh. Yet he also is wise and will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of them that work iniquity. Okay, now this is the point. Now the Egyptians are men and not God. You see, so they're just men at the end of the day. All right, even though they portray themselves to be God, right? They want to be like God. They want to be like the Heavenly Father, right? They are nothing but men, right? It says, and their horses' flesh, meaning what? Their power, okay, is flesh. You see? So we are of the spirit, and that's pretty much why they hate us, man. All right, because we're walking in the ways of the spirit. We're walking in the ways of the Lord. All right, and they don't want us to wake up the rest of the people, all right, that are walking in the flesh, all right, and basically have them attempt to grow a brain to actually, you know, move further away from them. Because remember, their job is to control. They want to have total control over you. All right, so when we're opening the minds of the people, all right, and we're basically giving them a brain to think with, all right, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to. They don't want that to happen at all. Because if we would just imagine, even though it's not going to happen, all right, because only the elect is going to wake up. But imagine if we woke up all these people, all right. So what's really going on? There wouldn't be no control, and there wouldn't be no system for them to set up, all right, because we'd all be open-minded to what's going on and who's the devil that the Bible speaks of and what's their true intentions, okay? But unfortunately, that's not how it's going to work out, all right? 2/3 of our people going to fall into the system, all right? 2/3 of our people going to die, all right, in the land, whether it be through famine, whether it be through the sword, all right, or whether it be you know, taking an MOTB and taking taking a missile to the face, okay? That's prophecy, right? But again, it says the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord Yahweh shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is hoping shall fall down, and they shall all fail together, okay? And this is what you're seeing right now. All right, the Lord, all right, is making everybody around the world fail together. Okay, is the system going to be put in place? Yeah, because it's prophecy that the Lord said that the system will come into play. All right, to usher in this MOTB. All right, but in the midst of that system, right, in the fullness of his sufficiency, the Lord said what? That he going to lift up that standard. You see, when he's about to fill up his belly, all right, just when he thinks he got everything in the palm of his hand, right? That's when the Lord's going to intervene. You see, that's why you're going to have these nations, you know, shoot them missiles, all right, upon America to stop that. All right. The Lord's going to take the crafty. All right. Let me grab that. This is Job. All right. He's going to disappoint, as it tells you in 5 and 12 in Job. All right. He disappointed the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. You see? So they're not going to be able to fully perform that enterprise. You see? They're going to bring it into play. All right. But it's going to be a limit to it, because the Lord has limits on this devil, right? Job, what's that? Job 14 and 5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. You see, so he can't pass no further than what the Lord allows at the end of the day. All right. And that's why in the fullness of his sufficiency, when he's about to fill up his belly, right? That's his limit. He can't go no farther than that. You see, and that's when the Lord's going to intervene. All right. So let's go back to Ecclesiastes 12 and 5. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, all right, and the fear shall be in the way, the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail. Okay. It says, because men goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the streets. Okay. So, and this chapter is telling you, all right, how the grinders are going to be few. All right. The grinding is going to be low, meaning that all these, jobs are going to be taken away from you, and you can see it anyway. All right. They're replacing you with AI. They're replacing you with robots. Okay. People are getting cut off in their jobs every day. Unemployment is at an all-time high. You see, a lot of people are living homeless, broke on the streets, barely getting by. Okay. They're pretty much collapsing. The collapse of the society that's going on is really meant to take away the middle class. All right. Because the middle class is, you either poor, middle class, or rich. Rich is only the 1%. There are many poor, but with everything that's going on in society, there's more middle class than poor right now. You see, and the job of this system being brought in is to take out completely the middle class and turn the middle class into complete poor. You see, that's why when you go into Revelations, all right, the 13th chapter, all right, and 16, it tells you, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor. You see, because there's not going to be a middle class. You see, it's only going to be classification of rich and poor. And the rich not going to allow you to be rich like them, because they are greedy. They want to be the only ones in the world, all right, to be rich. Whoever's rich, whoever has the money is the one that controls everything. So why would they allow you to basically get rich with them and have control with them? They want to be able to control you. Okay. So the middle class is going to be wiped out, all right, and be made poor. And that's what's going to collapse the whole entire system. You see, middle class no more is going to be working. The poor already is not working, right? They're already broke as hell, homeless, all right, barely getting by, using programs and using welfare, using the system to get by. The middle class is not using the system, because the middle class is somehow making money, and they're able to, pay for their house. They're able to still pay for their own food, have a car, and maybe have a little bit of money to go do a little something here and there. But once this collapses, middle class is gone. Okay. All these little mom and pop shops, all these little businesses that, Israelites have, that's going to be gone out the way. Okay. The only thing that's going to be able to prosper is going to be the rich, and the rich always get richer. Okay. And the poor get poorer. Okay. And the point of that is to make you lean on his system, lean on his image, lean on his society. You see, going into real quick, Isaiah 30:1, and it says, woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, to trust in the shadow of Egypt. You see, and that's the problem, that our people trust in the shadow of Egypt. They trust everything that comes out of American ways, right? Everything that's in America, they believe it's good for them, when in all reality, it's made to destroy you, right? It says, therefore, it is made to destroy your image, ultimately. That's why eventually you end up falling into their image. And that's also the thing that they want you to do, right? They want you to fall into their image, okay, to bow down to their system, to their beast system. It says, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. You see? So that's going to eventually be your downfall, okay? Now, let's take it from 9, right? It says that this is I'll take it from 8. It says, now go and write it before them in a table and note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever, that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of the Lord Yahweh, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. All right, and that's what these people want us to do. All right, they want us to sugarcoat lies to them. All right, because they're so used to leaning on this system and living in the refuge of lies, and with hell and death are they at agreement. They want us to basically speak to them the same way that Esau speaks to them, prophesying lies to them. You see, because they believe in those lies, all right, and they believe that those lies could protect them. So when we come and tell you the truth, that's why they look at us with like, you know, like we got 12 heads, man. Okay. Oh, no, that can't be the way. Or nah, you crazy, bro. You know why? Because the system has brainwashed them to think like the system. You see, to think like Esau. They're programmed to the system. That's why it's going to be that much easier to gradually have all these things happen, right? And gradually usher in the N.W.O. and you're just gonna walk right into it. They're not gonna need to force you, all right, into the system. Okay, these people are just gonna gradually walk in. They're gonna gradually give it to you, and you're gonna gradually walk into it with no problem. Why? Because you take away the things they need the most, then I can gain the control of them. You see, that's why they're gonna take away your food. That's why the famine is coming. That's why thirst is coming. You see, because the oppressor is gonna make you go to him for the want of all things, and nakedness and hunger. All right, you see. So it says, get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, because the Holy One to cease from before us. All right. Wherefore, thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because you despise this word and trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon, therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly at an instant. You see, meaning what? Let's read in the NLT. It says, this is the reply of the Holy One of Israel, because you despise what I tell you and trust instead in oppression and lies, calamity will come upon you suddenly like a bulging wall and burst and falls, and in an instant it will collapse and come crashing down on you. What? This society. You see, the collapse of the society, the crash of this markets, the crash of everything here in America is going to come upon you suddenly, right? Because you trusted in the refuge of lies, man. Because you believe that this great nation can make you safe, right? Tells you that in Hosea 10 and 13 in the NLT, right? It says, but you have cultivated wickedness and harvested a thriving crop of sins. You have eaten the fruit of lies, trusting in your military might, believing that great armies can make your nation safe. You see? So because you thought that America was going to be made great again, all right, you going to collapse and fail with it, you see? And when it all come crashing down, all right, now you're going to have that sad face. This is what's going to make everybody go into panic mode, desperation, you know, the sedition among men, rioting, you know, people's minds, you know, going, you know, having no pity upon their neighbors, okay? Because you all trusted in something that was not true, that was not there for your benefit. It was there for your destruction. Okay, the system, the beast system, the image of the system, all right, is made for your destruction. Okay, and it's all orchestrated by your elites, and first and foremost orchestrated by prophecy, all right, from Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai for these things to happen, man. You see, and we can't wait for these things to happen. All right, we're on the verge of all this happening right in front of our faces. This is what we're waiting for, and we're really just waiting for one thing. We're waiting for this devil to say MOTB is mandatory, because that's the end of his rule right there. Okay, everything's gonna happen so quickly when they make this thing mandatory. Okay, so let me see what the brother got here. This is Ecclesiasticus 10:4. It says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh Shai, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. Exactly. You see, because the manner of these people are in the manner of their cruel Lord, right? Let's just go to that chapter real quick. All right. And that's why this place is going to collapse. Let's end it there. As a matter of fact, that's a perfect one to end it with. The water, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and the water, brother, for that beautiful precept. Right. This is Ecclesiasticus 10:1. It says, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. There's no order here, man, because the government, all right, is not well ordered. The government is wicked. Okay, they're wicked behind closed doors, right? It says they're only doing things to prosper themselves. They're only doing things to make, make it good for them. They're not making it good for the people. Okay, they're making the people suffer. All right, so they can basically have the greed and have everything in their favor, right? It says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. So we're in the hands of a cruel Lord, right? So that can only mean that the people going to be cruel, right? That can only mean that America is filled with cruelty, right? If the government is not well ordered, then the people are not well ordered. So that's why there's just chaos out here. There's no order here in America, right? It tells you that in Job, all right? What's that? 10:21. It says, 22, a land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is as darkness. Yeah, because everything is flipped upside down. Everything is ass backwards. What's considered righteousness is considered wickedness, and what's wickedness is considered righteousness. So everything, all right, is turned upside down. So there's no order here in America, right? So let's go back to Ecclesiasticus 10:2. And it says, as the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroyeth this people. You see? And that's why America is destroyed. The people are destroyed. America is destroyed. All right, because the king that's in rulership, the wicked beareth rule. So the people mourn, the earth mourns. Okay, pretty much order mourns. You see, it says, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh Shai, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. In the hand of Yahweh is the prosperity of man, and upon the persons of the scribes shall he lay his honor. You see, so this place is destroyed because of straight pride, man. Okay, pride is when one begins to depart from his maker, right? Pride is hateful before Yahweh and man. All right, so these elites walk in great pride. All right, and pride go before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. So because America has that haughty spirit, right? Because they have that pride, all right, destruction in the fall is going to come with it. All right, especially now, right now that we're in that 250-year mark, all right, of this empire still ruling. You see, And empires don't go no more than 250 years. You see? So all that, you know, all them years of them ruling, all right, is now coming down to an end. All right. As it tells you here in 8, it says, because of unrighteous dealings and injuries and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. For such an one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels. The physician, which is Yahweh Shai, cutteth off a long disease. You see, America's been in rulership for a long time. All right, these Edomites have been in rulership for a long time. Okay, it's been a long disease. Okay, when you go into them being the Greeks, and then there were the Romans. Okay, and then now we're in the revival of the ancient Roman Empire. That's a long disease. You see, that goes to the statue, right? And Daniel, right? The legs, the legs were the longest part of the body. You see, so that shows that they were in a long rulership. Okay, so they've been a long disease, right? It says, the physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king, tomorrow shall die. You see, and that's what the Lord is getting ready. You know, he's getting ready for this funeral. He's getting ready for Esau's funeral. Okay, for the collapse of this whole entire society, the collapse of everything here in America. All right, and everything globally. All right, and preparing for the funerals of all these kings, man. That's why the Lord, when he comes to destroy, it says he's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. You see, he had many crowns upon his head. Why? Because he's coming to take down all these empires that ruled. Okay. And because we live reincarnation, it's like we have all these different empires back here today, all in one, you know, trying to bring it all into one, you know, one world order. Okay. So the Lord going to, you know, destroy that. He going to bring that down. Okay. But, yeah, that's pretty much the point. You know, just wanted to land back on that. All right. This is what's coming, man. Global lockdowns is in full process. Okay. We just have to watch how it plays out, you know, continually be watchmen. All right. For Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah's sake. All right. Feeding the lambs, you know, which is our main duty. All right. The Lord said, if you love me, feed my lambs. That's what we have to do. Continually feed the lambs. All right. And let them know what time it is and get the blood off our hands. All right, because the time is coming, all right, that the Lord is about to bring this heavy judgment upon the earth. All right. And if you ain't with the Lord's program, well, hey, man, you're going to be left behind. Okay, you're going to fall into Esau's program, you see. So I'm going to leave it there through the Spirit, Lord willing that you were edified. So with that being said, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Kol Haloim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Bachakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect that scattered abroad, the Akim and the Aqua that was listening in. Yahweh Rapazah, Lord willing that the lesson was edifying. To the next one, Shalom, keep fighting the good fight of faith, enduring as good soldiers of Yahweh. Hey, Shalom, brother, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah Barakatah to you and your household. Lord willing that the Pesach is going well for you, and may Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah continue to sup with you in yours, in your household, and put, you know, protection upon your household. And hey, call Haloim La Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai for being able to edify. All right. So with that being said, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Barakatah.